Today's news. Today's news.
Midwest flooding.
The devastation is severe and it's widespread.
Yes, off the Florida Panhandle.
It was ripping very swiftly.
Terror strike in Russia.
The scale of this attack is a humiliation for the government.
Good morning. I'm Steve Cation with the CBS World News Roundup. At least one death is blamed on the floods that have hit South Dakota. High water has also forced evacuations in parts of Iowa. And CBS's Jennifer Merrily says there's also flooding in Minnesota.
Here in Waterville, parts of the city are underwater.
They said it's only going to get worse, and so we're just bracing, and hopefully it's not going to get any worse than that.
A state of emergency remains where up to 18 inches of rain fell here. The National Guard is expected to arrive today and help with the rising flood waters.
It's ridiculous. I don't even know if there's a word for it. It's just unbelievable.
Parts of Iowa are underwater, too. The state's governor issued a disaster declaration in 21 counties.
In almost every community impacted, the rivers crested several feet above record levels from the floods of 1993.
In South Dakota, at least one person was killed after heavy rains and flooding inundated the eastern part of the state. Severe weather spawned 6 tornadoes that struck southern Wisconsin over the weekend.
The worst of the early summer heats will be in the Midwest and South today. CBS News meteorologist David Parkinson.
Sweet relief from the heat for much of the Northeast. New York City will top out around 80, but we do actually have heat advisories stretching from South Dakota all the way to the Panhandle of Florida.
Now to danger in the water. At least 6 people have died after they were caught in Florida rip currents. In North Carolina, lifeguards have rescued more than 150 people over the past 5 days, and 2 teenagers are presumed dead after they were reported missing at a New York City beach. Here's CBS's Christiane Benavides.
Beach safety officials say a young man drowned Sunday after he was dragged into a dangerous rip current off the coast of Panama City Beach, Florida.
You can have a rip current develop anywhere at any time.
Sunday's incident is one of several deaths blamed on rip currents in recent days, including 3 Alabama men who were just hours into their vacation in the Florida Panhandle. One day earlier, Pennsylvania parents Brian Warder and Erica Wishart drowned off Hutchinson Island while vacationing with their 6 children. The beach safety director for Panama City Beach, Daryl Paul, says if you're caught in a rip current, they call.
If you're a good swimmer, swim parallel to shore. But if you're not a very good, confident swimmer, just float and wait for help.
The cargo ship Dolly this morning headed out of Baltimore for Virginia and additional repairs. Nearly 3 months after it lost power and hit the Key Bridge, bringing it down. Now to Russia, where at least 19 people were killed in attacks in the southern region of Dagestan at churches and synagogues targeted. CBS's Charlie D'Agata.
Gunmen opening fire at a police traffic post, turning the streets of the capital Makhachkala into a bloodbath, bursting into a Russian Orthodox church, shooting parishioners and a priest. In coordinated, simultaneous attacks, armed assailants also opened fire on a synagogue 75 miles south in the coastal city of Derbent, then setting the building on fire. Investigation officials say at least 15 officers were killed, and the priest of the Orthodox Church, who officials described as brutally murdered.
Correspondent Cammie McCormick tells us Secretary of State Blinken is set to meet today with Israel's defense minister.
This State Department meeting comes after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said he would only be willing to agree to a partial ceasefire that would not end the war. He said Israel is committed to continuing the war after a pause, and he's not willing to give up on that.
The U.S. Supreme Court is agreeing to hear appeals from the Biden administration and families looking to block state bans on gender-affirming care. The first presidential debate is Thursday night. CBS's Robert Costa.
What we're seeing from President Biden is a lot of time, a methodical approach, going through different policy positions with his advisors at Camp David in recent days. Top sources tell me President Biden wants to frame Trump at this debate as a threat to democracy, a threat to abortion rights. Former President Trump, it's much more of an extemporaneous process, making phone calls to friends and advisors, even some senators, getting some tidbits on policy, but mostly preparing to shrug off Biden's attacks and frame the Biden administration as a disaster.
In a new CBS News poll, Biden has a 23-point edge over Trump among likely voters under age 30. 5 minutes after the hour.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car kits.
Well, that's